نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Respected viewers, continuing with our discussion in our short and brief series on the qualities which Allah Ta'ala had said defines a true believer, and those believers for whom Allah Ta'ala had said they are falah, they are successful. We are now on the sixth quality. Those وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِأَمَانَاتِهِمْ وَعَهْدِهِمْ رَاعُونَ. Those who look after and fulfill their agreements and their covenants. This is such an important part of our Sharia. When you have made an agreement, firstly we are supposed to do it in writing with two witnesses, as Allah had said in the Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِذَا تَدَايَنْتُمْ بِدَيْنٍ إِلَى أَجَلٍ مُسَمًّى فَاكْتُبُوا. And then after that, to fulfill it. Many a times we are very weak with regard to this. And we find more and more in our community, people do not fulfill the agreements and the covenants. Allah Ta'ala in the Holy Quran says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu awfu bil uqud. O you who believe, fulfill your commitments, fulfill your agreements, fulfill your covenants. It is part of our deen, and it is part of the true believer for whom Allah Ta'ala has guaranteed success. There is something very similar that is fulfillment of our promises. A promise is made to re-emphasize something that you have said. So you promise upon it. Now, the difference between agreement, although the promise can also be covered in this verse of fulfilling your covenant and agreements, the difference between the two is agreements can be legally enforced in a court, whereas promise is something that cannot be legally enforced or so easily enforced, but it is morally enforceable upon yourself. You have made a promise. It is important for you to fulfill that promise. And those who fulfill the agreements and the covenants, they are part of the true believers. They are part of those whom Allah Ta'ala says who are successful. Flowing from there is a very important point that we also need to emphasize, the importance of truthfulness and trustworthiness. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, as Anas radiallahu ta'ala used to say, Kallama khatabana Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Very seldom did our beloved Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam deliver a sermon in which he did not say, La imana liman la amanata lah. There is no iman in a person when he is not trustworthy. The aspect of honesty, the aspect of trustworthiness is so important and central to our deen. Amongst the reasons is that one of the aspects with regard to it is that it leads towards goodness in other aspects of life. Therefore, Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had said, adopt truthfulness, فَإِنَّ الصِّدْقَ يَهْدِي إِلَى الْبِرِّ. It leads towards righteousness in other spheres of your life, and that in turn leads towards Jannah. And then Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, stay away from lies, because not only is it evil in itself, but it leads to other evils. And one of the evils that it leads to is you have to tell 10 lies to protect one lie. And that in turn leads you towards Jahannam. Another aspect with regard to trustworthiness and its opposite is it covers the entire spectrum of a human being's personality. When you are truthful, you would be regarded to be good in other spheres of morality. And if the opposite is also the same. That is very beautifully expressed in a hadith of our beloved Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, narrated by Safwan bin Sulaym, who said, a person came to Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and said, Ya Rasulullah, ayakun al-mu'minu jabbanan. Ya Rasulullah, is it possible for a mu'min to be a coward? Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, it is not a good habit, but it is possible. He can be a coward. He's a human being. He can have other weaknesses, and one of his weaknesses, he could be a coward. And Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, ayakun al-mu'minu bakhilan. Is it possible for a mu'min to be a miser? And Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said it is possible. It's not a good habit. It's not something that is encouraged. The Quran tells us about staying away from miserliness. But a mu'min is a human being. He can have different weaknesses, and it's possible for him to be a miser. Then Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had said, ayakun al-mu'minu kadhaban. Ya Rasulullah, is it possible for a mu'min to be a liar? And Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, never. He can never be a liar. There is accommodation for other weaknesses in his personality, but there is no accommodation for the weakness of lying and dishonesty. Therefore, Allah Subhanah wa Ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, in the sixth quality of the true believer, that وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِأَمَانَاتِهِمْ وَعَهْدِهِمْ رَاعُونَ. They protect and they guard and they fulfill the covenants and the agreements. May Allah give us a tawfiq. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.